Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you today's session of Ignite Talks, organized in honor of International Peace Day 2025 by the International Youth Alliance for Peace, IYAP. Today, we explore the theme Youth, Governance, and Development Pathways to a Culture of Peace. Peace is not just the absence of conflict, it requires active participation, trust, inclusion, and justice. Youth play a pivotal role in shaping policies, practices, and social systems that influence the future of our community. From local initiatives to national strategies and even digital engagement, young people are at the forefront of building a society where dialogue, empathy, and collaboration can thrive. In this session, we will reflect on how governance structures can empower youth, how youth development initiatives can align with principles of justice, peace, and how we can all contribute to a culture of trust and cooperation in a multi-ethnic and diverse societies like ours. This is a unique opportunity to learn from someone with both academic expertise and practical experience in governance and peace building, helping us connect theory and action. And it's my privilege to introduce our facilitator for this session, Mr. Suranga Ranasinghe. He is a graduate in Peace and Conflict Resolution and completed his master's degree at James Cook University, where he studied under Professor Johan Geltung, the father of modern peace studies. Mr. Sonagaran Singh currently serves as a secretary at the Office of Opposition Leader in the Parliament of Sri Lanka. His work bridges academic insights, governance, and youth engagement with expertise in policy, interfaith dialogue, and peace building initiatives, making his perspective particularly valuable for us today. With that, I'm honored to hand over session to Mr. Suranga Ranasinghe. Sir, the floor is yours.
Right. I hope you can hear me first.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you very much, Sumaria. So hopefully it's a good weekend for you all. And before starting the session, can I get the control over my presentation or some? I think that would be easy.
Sure, sir. We'll share.
Right. Right. Good evening, all. So may I start, Sumaria?
Yes, sir, you can start.
Right. 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 Let's begin. The topic is youth governance, development, pathways to culture of peace. As far as I understood, you are the first generations in human history who can end a war with a hashtag and start peace with a post. Right now, as we sit here somewhere in South Asia, a student in Dhaka is posting about climate justice. A young entrepreneur in Colombo, probably coding an app for peace. A poet in Lahore is writing verses that cross borders. The activist in Kathmandu is organizing through Discord. A programmer in Mumbai is building bridges through technology. A teacher in Thimphu is educating tolerance. A farmer in Bangladesh probably dreaming of a university. You know what they all have in common. They are all part of the same generations that just changed three government within 3 years in the regions. So welcome to the most powerful generation in South Asia as ever seen for Peace Day. So let me introduce by that introduction. So as Sumaria correctly said, my name is Suranga Ranasinghe. Currently, I'm working for the government, working at the parliament as secretary to the leader of the opposition. Uh, Prior to that, as he said, I have academic background in peace building and conflict solution, and have experience quite extensively in the in Sri Lanka as well as the South Asia region, uh, and Africa and some other part of the Central Asia. So as she suddenly invited me and asked my help to probably share some of my thoughts for this Peace Day, I'm really, really excited and so happy to be connect with you here. So what came into my mind last 2 days, as soon as Omaria told, what sort of message that I can share with you within this specific day, because you are not, I suppose, not belong to our generation. We're millennials. You're Gen Z. We were the people who born in 1980s, and we were probably the last generation uh, who has experienced our life without a smartphone or social media. Uh, even we finishes our university education. Uh, but your generation is completely different. And then again, our generation have experiences and have a high influence from our previous generations, those who are born in 1950s and 60s, uh, the analog generations, right? But now we have to deal with this completely with an smart generations. So in a way that we are sandwiched in between these two generations. At the same time, the positive side is we have seen how and where our previous generations have failed, and how and where our the next generation is getting success, right? So giving that appreciation to your generations, I really wanted to begin this my Peace Day sharing with you, right? Uh, since we are all living in South Asia, uh, what I have seen for the last 30, 40 years is a repetition of cycle of violence or cycle of conflicts. Where our grandparents, even we were born, right? When I was born in Sri Lanka in 1980s, early 1980s, I was born with the war, and we lived with the war. And we have seen how civil war can impact highly on civilian daily life. So are you ready to change this cycle of conflict? Or are you also going in the same path? Right? This is the question that I have, that I need to shoot to you. Right? Uh, so going forward, I really wanted to have and start a dialogue with you. Uh, so before we continue, let me ask you something in the chat. So I hope that you have chat access, uh, right? You all have chat access, isn't it?
Yes, sir, we have.
Right. Very good. So, since you have not introduced yourself also, this is what I really wanted to do. Just, I need you to go into the chat and type one word. As soon as you heard the word peace, what is the first word that come into your mind? Right? I repeat the question. Just type one word. As soon as heard the word peace, what is the first word that come into your mind? Just write it and don't overthink, right? Just write the first word that come into your mind as soon as you heard the word peace, peace. Once you write, just write the word that came into your mind, your name, and your country. That will introduce yourself to the entire team and myself as well. Shall we start?
So can you see the chat messages here?
Yes, I'm already getting dream privilege from Sahar from Afghanistan. The first word that come into your mind, your name and your country. As soon as you heard the word peace. Sheikh, Sheikha from Sri Lanka. Mindfulness. And nature, Chandramona Anojan from Sri Lanka. Colin Harishchandra from Sri Lanka. I cannot, what is your word? Harmony from Dishanayaka, Sri Lanka. Calm. Shiromia, Sri Lanka. Trust. Freedom and harmony. Trust. Right, very good. Keep going. We'll take another 30 seconds to finish this exercise. And I see participants from Sri Lanka and Afghanistan. Any other country? Chandrakant from Nepal. Right. Interesting. I see you lots of positive words actually. Looks like you all have quite good understanding about peace and very positive attitude towards peace, right? The words that you come, the mostly trust, freedom, harmony. I also see some of the words like genocide, interesting, calm, right? Nature, dream. Right. Very good. Keep these words in your mind as we continue. Let's see if your perspective change by the end, right? Let me share something that our greatest poet understood long before we had smartphones. That is Rabindranath Tagore. He's from our subcontinent. He said, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, into that heaven of freedom. My father, let my country awake. This was written by Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore is dreaming of a generation. Minds without fear, knowledge flowing freely across borders through fiber optic cables and 5G networks. He just didn't know his heaven of freedom would be powered by Wi-Fi actually. So let's see whether we're able to repeat the same system that have developed so far from our previous generations, or are we ready to break this cycle? We have seen in Bangladesh recently, they have started with their quota issue. They just didn't protest. You demonstrate the power of youth, which led transformative the entire the policy that the government wanted to implement. You have changed it. Then again, in Sri Lanka, a few years back, we have seen a master class in peaceful resistance. They just not occupy the space. They have demonstrated how creative expressions can drive political change. There was an wonderful experience that we as Sri Lankan have experienced during that era. Almost all the nonviolent actions they brought to the street and mix that with their demonstrations, and they show how a government can change in a peaceful manner. Again, very recently, our Nepali friends are here. They have shown how app Discord can use as a transformative platforms to communicate and taking decisions in governance. Then again, people in India, I don't know whether they are here, but as the biggest country, the most diverse country leading the South Asia, we have seen a plenty of IT activities going around, focusing on largely on democracy, especially on their farmers' struggle, which happened a few years ago, and startups that promoting and connecting cultural diversity, bridging them, and how smart they are in connecting their diversities each other. Then again, in Pakistan, despite every challenge, you continue to innovate and create, from educational advocacy and also your contributions towards like entrepreneurs solving complex problems in the world. And how strong that you are sharing your cultural requirements with the globe. Then again, our wise Bhutan friends, those who have introduced gross national happiness, measuring progress through well-being rather than just economic indicators, while other all chase on GDPs. You have shown us the quality of life and environmental harmony can guide national development. Your approach to sustainable governance offers lessons for the entire region. Then again, our small friends, Maldives. Rising seas cannot silence rising voices. They keep fighting against climate change represent not just your island, but all communities facing environmental challenges. Even Sri Lanka, a small island, we may also have impact soon. So your advocacy on the global stage proves that even small nations can have powerful impact when they speak with courage and clarity about urgent challenges offering everyone, right, affecting everyone. But let's be honest about something again. Every single one of our countries still carrying the wounds of last 50 years. The scares happened in 1971 still affect Bangladeshis and Pakistanis. The Kashmir remains a wound that won't heal soon. Sri Lanka is still trying to recovering from decades of civil war. Afghanistan pain touches all of us. Cross-border tensions keep us from being neighbors we could be. So this is where I found this Faiz Ahmed, the court. Speak the truth is still still alive. Speak whatever you must speak is now. He was talking to your generation. In cross time, truth is still alive in your tweet or X, your post, your viral videos. But the question is, will you speak the truth or not? Then again, see how the governance gap happened in our regions, right? In India, when I do quite a bit of research, and I found the average parliamentarian age is somewhere 50 plus in Sri Lankan. Only 4 out of 212 MPs are below age 30. In Pakistan, only 7. Across South Asia, what I have seen is 70-year-old leaders are making decisions for 25-year-old populations, right? So this again is not just about age, it's about understanding. When leaders grew up, there was no internet, no social media, no global connectivity. They're trying to govern a digital generation with an analog mindset. This is what I said. So people like us in between your generations and our pre and analog generations, we are fighting to connecting these two generations. Let me ask you some specific thing, right? You can take about 1 minute, probably 2 minutes. Okay. What's your early warning signals that politicians or parliamentary system ignored in your society or in your country, or the decision-making bodies are ignoring, right? Just think about as Gen Z people and write me in your chat, in the chat, with the country and 3 most pressing to your generation ambitions that leaders just don't get, right? Start write them out, and then we start, then we carry out our discussions, right? Go to the chat and your early warnings, right? Early warning signals that really your government or the decision makers or the politicians do not understand or they really don't get, right? Shall we start writing? Each person 3. Just think 1 minute, take your time and write down 3 early warnings. Think about your jobs, economic opportunities, climate change, it can be environment, anything, right? Which you think as the early warning signals that you wanted to raise, but your rulers or the politicians or the parliament or the governing bodies are not hearing or not paying attention, not giving enough attention to you. Right, start coming. Malina Disanaik, I hope you're from Sri Lanka. Lack of concerns over the environment, inequality, and education gaps. Right? Good. Mullah Sahar, I believe three things the leader don't get it in my country. First, education should be very much first value. Second, providing opportunities for the young generations and to invent. Last but not least, working on bridging technology from the advanced countries. Excellent. Rising social tensions, conflict between groups, inequalities and exclusion. Some people left out. Loss of trust and dialogues. People stop talking and trusting. Interesting. So Myria Sainuddin, the hate speech in social media. Right, infringements of rights, more inclined towards minorities such as acts like PTA. There's no name, but someone wrote journalist and media. I think like they are warnings or threats. I really don't get it. Can you just elaborate it? What is journalist and media means to you? International relations and human rights pressure, public untrust and protest, elections. You need elections or you don't need elections? We'll take 2 more minutes. I saw some more participants are there. Come on, Jancy, you are expert in chatting. Right, last 30 seconds. Things are coming. Good. We should rely on communication, trust between people and institutions. Early warning signals include decline civic engagement, public trust in leaders, acquisitions, reporting, which is schools. This should be peacefully without dialogue, small disagreement, right. First, we check the reality, what is around us, right? And we have seen initially that we have wounds that not been solved. Right? I see one more. I see the people die from the road accident. Very good. Lack of public safety transportations. Excellent. Responsibility on the side. Very good. Right. And secondly, we have seen the governance of the gap crisis, because those who have governed the countries have huge gap between the people. Right. The third one, that's what I wanted to really come in here. That's ignoring the early warnings, as we have identified here right now. This is what really frustrated me. Young people are often the first sense when things are going wrong. You saw the economic crisis in Sri Lanka in advance. You understood the job quota injustice happened in Bangladesh before politicians cared. The Nepalis who recognized the corruption issue. But instead of listening to these early warnings, government often ignore youth voices until streets are filled with protests. It's like having a smoke detector that everyone ignores until the house is on fire. You see some of the early warnings here. Your own friends have written down. These are really the worrying factors. Whereas the governance or the governments or the politicians still not able to give even enough answers. That's why youth are still questioning those things. But here's where the story gets interesting, and hopefully, research from 38 countries shows something remarkable. Countries with higher youth participation in governance and development consistently show better economic outcomes. When young people are meaningfully included in decision makings, GDP growth rates improve significantly. Innovation increased by measurable margins. I have seen some have written here, the space for innovation is required. Social cohesion is strengthens. We have seen so many people have questions, inequalities and misunderstandings, misinformations. And the early warning system work better because youth are communicating. Development programs succeeded more often. And here's what really breaks my heart. We have been so focused on what divided us again. But there are still things that we have forgotten, that united us, right? In this peace day, we need to go and find what things actually unite us. First, well, we all love cricket. The Asia Cup is going on right now. The Sri Lankans, we failed against Bangladesh yesterday. We all love cricket still. We all argue about whose biryani is better, right? From Pakistani or India. I love Hyderabad myself, right? We all have our mothers, right, who thinks we are too thin. So keep pushing us to eat more and more. So these are the connecting point in these subcontinents. We all dream in languages that sound different but feel the same. We all want our children to live better lives than we did. So here's my question. What if the generations that organize WhatsApp, mobilize on Instagram, and govern through Discords could also fix the governance system that have failed us for decades? The interesting facts that I recently read, a researcher called a philosopher, Robert Kaplan's. He said this is an Indian Ocean century. There's still brilliant geopolitical analytic. He said the 21st century belongs to Indian Ocean, not the Pacific, not the Atlantic, not the but that is the Indian Ocean. That is your geographical area. So 90% of global trades travel across our sea. Two-thirds of world petroleum passes through our waters. Now China and India getting help from all these. They're racing to get the power of economic in the world. Every major powers is competing to influence in our backyard. So, but the twist is, while the superpowers are playing chess with our geography, you as youth rewriting the rule of the game. That is what that I can see for last few months, last few years. I saw another poem, this very interesting poem that I found, written by Aga Said Ali from Kashmir. Just read this. I am being rowed through paradise on a river of hell. Execute ghost, it is night, right, night. The paddle is a heart, is break the porcelain waves. He was describing the beauty and tragedy of our regions. But you're not just being rowed to paradise on a river of hell. You're building new boats, new rivers, new destination. You're turning his metaphor in helplessness into blueprint for a hope. That is what a student in Dhaka expecting putting a tweet or X. That is what the Nepali have experienced recently. That is what happened in Sri Lanka. So it's not just about technology. You as young generations are weaponizing this connectivity for peace. And you can do that. Because previous generation needed armies to change borders. But you just need algorithms, right? Previous generation needed decades to change minds. But you can do just using a hashtag. Previous generations needed to wait for permissions to change the world. But you just need Wi-Fi. Just see the difference. So by understanding all these new generations capacities as well as these manual generations activities, let me explain something that most academic miss out, but you live every day. The relationship between youth, governance, development, and the culture of peace isn't just an academic theory. It's a mathematical formula for me. Let me break down this quickly. First, youth and governance. Right. Let's see what is the connections here. First, you think in digital time instance, but our generations and our previous generations think in bureaucratic times, in years. For you, is just a digital time. And problem identifications. You see issues early: climate change, inequality, corruptions, road accidents, right? But they see those things when they become crises only. You are creating tech-based solutions in your governance model, but they prefer a traditional approaches to that. And communication, you organize through platforms. They just don't understand anything what it is. This is the relationship between youth and governance, and the difference between the past generations and your generations. And the next formula, the governance and the development. Corruption. So every 1% increase in the corruption reduces GDP by 0.5 annually. Right. Huge impact. Governance and development. Exclusion cost. Countries with low youth political participation shows 20% slower human development progress around the world. Innovation gaps. Nation with all the governance structures adapt new technologies 3 to 5 years. Later that youth inclusive systems, as it takes time. But when governance include youth voices, development accelerates, innovation increases, social cohesion strengthens. It's not just correct correlation, right? It's a fact. Third one, the connection between development and cultural peace. Economic development alone not really connect with peace. Look at the rising inequalities in developing countries, the gap between the poorest and the richest. The political line alone is fighting with the peace. Look at the polarized issues of democracies. Youth inclusive development. So my formula, youth inclusive development plus responsive governance only will equal to sustainable peace. The next one, the culture of peace. Right? A culture of peace isn't just no war. I truly understand from the first exercise that we did with the chattings, your understanding about peace. You know, really, the peace is not just an absence of war. It is a society where conflict are resolved through the dialogues, development benefits for everyone, and governance serves all generations. Right? But the problem, as we discuss, in pre-conflict stages, we are seeing the traditional governance ignores early warnings. So that becomes problems, right? In the pre-conflict stages. But during conflict stages, youth bear the highest cost, but have least voice resolution. They are the people who should go to fight in the wars. So they are giving the highest cost, but the least voice in resolving it. In the post-conflict situation, peace agreement usually made by older generations often don't address youth concerns. It's a cycle again repeat, the conflict is repeating. So breaking this cycle, we really need intergenerational governance. Intergenerational governance system where youth voices is just consultations, but co-creations. So this is where I'm proposing a pathway formula quickly. The first, step one is start youth early warning systems, because youth know the warnings before the elders. Second, youth inclusive development, introduce it. Third, intergenerational governance. Decision-making structures that blend youth innovation with experience with steps. The fourth one, culture of peace. When all three works together, conflict decrease and cooperation increases. With that, the challenges. So what is the challenge? The challenge is choosing between governance, development, or peace. Is understanding that they are interconnected system. You can't just fix one without addressing the other. Right. So when we turn about culture of peace, the UN says the peace is values, attitudes, and behavior that rejects violence and prevent conflicts. But that's really incomplete for me. Based on our framework, culture of peace still required youth early warnings, responsive governance, inclusive development, and intergenerational cooperations. So as youth group here, 22 participants in this Peace Day, will think about adding these four into the UN. Just write it down. Revise the idea about culture of peace. So this time I can recall the Malala Yusuf, the Malala Yusuf from Bangladesh. She said, before I continue, let me share what, she said, we realize the importance of our voices only when we are silenced. Let us pick up our books and our pens. They are the most powerful weapons. But right now, smartphones are your powerful weapons and your pens. So start writing. So let's see, embracing your unique abilities, what we can do to fight with these challenges, to change the conflict. In mitigations and during conflict and post-conflicts. In prevention conflicts, in prevention conflicts, in the mitigation stages, we can protect civilians. We can protect civilians by giving early warnings. We can ask government to do policy adjustments based on your response. And also we can ask them to redirect the resources for the proper development. And we can work through technology proactively to address the issues that can reduce the conflict and increase the peace spaces. During conflicts, we can start doing actions to mitigate things. What we can do as youth? First, yes, we can supply humanitarian needs. We can communicate for peace. In governance, we can give them the technological tool for crisis management and developments. So we can do fundraising for peace and redevelopments. And as youth, we need to raise voices, because without these fires, or wherever the wars happen, the youth are the people who paid the highest cost of that. And in the post-conflict, the reconstruction stages, what we can do? Institution rebuilding, we can help them for the sustainable planning and lead that course. We also can address causes in governance. We can tell them not just don't give answers for symptoms, just go to the causes. And also we can innovation-driven recovery, benefit for all generations. And finally, cultural transformations that prevents cycle of conflict repetitions. These are the things that we can do as youth in pre-conflict, during conflict, and post-conflict situations for peace. This is a Buddhist teaching. So how we can do that? Train yourself. Train what? Train your algorithms to promote peace content. And train your network to spread understanding across borders. And train your governance systems to include youth voices systematically. And train your development approach to benefit all generations. And train yourself at the end of the day to be the intergenerational bridge this region really requires. So don't just scroll through history, start making it. As I initially mentioned, you are the first generations who can end a war with a hashtag and start peace with a post. So now go make it happen. The algorithm of peace starts with you. With that, Sumaria and the group, I end my presentation. As Sumaria very well know that I'm not really good at talking Zoom, but I try my best. So we do have another half an hour. And so I'm open of any of your questions and we start the dialogue. Right. So I'm ending my presentations. And
Thank
now
you,
I'm
sir.
again
Thank
hand
you
over to you. Right.
Okay. Thank you for your insight. And participants, it's your time to speak up, and like it's your space to ask your questions. So please ask your questions whether in chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. I think so. Like while they are like reflect on the session and prepare for some questions, so I think I can start with some questions. So what do you think? Like, how can youth actively shape governance structures like that are more inclusive and peaceful? Like nowadays, we are like blaming the governance system and everything that they are not inclusive. They have much more policies, but they are not inclusive. So, what can like youth can actively shape the governance.
What or how?
And how, like, I'm just asking, how can the youth shape the like the governance?
Well, first thing that you can do, first occupy all the possible existing mechanisms that is available around you, right? As an example, uh, uh, just take youth councils in Sri Lanka or youth parliaments. That's existing in Sri Lanka, right? Or otherwise, think about some other platforms that that is existed and created by our previous generations. What I wanted, the first thing that you can do is make sure that you participate all and occupy those things, right? So that way that you can first get your a certain acceptance from the governance, because governance is all about structures. Right? Uh, they are not really what do you call flexibles for the changes that happen around it. So what the governors do is they're trying to just integrate things as it is structured, right? So first thing, one of the things that you can do is just go into the systems and occupy them and start questioning and change from there itself. But meantime, you still have plenty of ways and means that the our generation have not experienced, not tested, or previous generation not even think about, right? So start those things. Right? As I said, use your algorithms, use your smartphones, use hashtags, uh, creating connections. And I'm not going to repeat what happened in Nepal. It's how they started it. And you should have been experienced what happened in Sri Lanka. Very few youth, 2, 3 youths have come out and they have started. And later entire country have, I mean, getting into it. The only problem that I can see is the governance has huge gap of responding to what happened around them, right? There's actually a timing gap. And then again, it's like a paradox things. So then again, is one way is a timing issue. The other one is a legitimacy issue. They think that if they change their systems, that impact to their legitimacy or the governor's legitimacy or the structural legitimacy. So that is why uh, we need to raise our voices and create a certain dialogues within the mass society to tell them that the change will always give you a legitimacy, right? So that's my two strategies for that I can propose.
Thank you, sir. And we got another question from Anojan, Sri Lanka. May I read it for you? Okay, sir. In societies where political power often uses the idea of peace for its own interests, how can you transform it into genuine social change? That's the question, sir.
Very difficult question. In societies where political powers often uses idea of fees for its own interests, right? But these probably he mentioned is about even I pointed out in my presentations that most of the ceasefire agreements or the post or settlements and the reconstruction is led by again very old people, right? Then those who are excluding from that process are blaming or questioning that you are not thinking about our interest, right? So how can you transform it into genuine social change? Uh, there is a good political slogans going around us right now. Those who have created problem and they cannot find the answers because they are just the problem makers. You need the third party supports to find a new solutions, right? So be that generations, right? Go with a solution based approach, right? That gives quite a genuine acceptance from your older generations. Because what I see, especially in my experience in the parliament, right? Uh, when when youth challenged, right, at the first side or the first step, then there is automatically resistance happen from our generations. But if you come up with solutions or positive notes, uh, focusing on transformation, that there is always create a new space for transformations. Right? Because you are not the people who generate the problems. So be the solution maker. That's the only way that you can show uh, that youth are genuine in transformations or transform things. That's my answer for that.
Thank you for sharing the insights. Sis. I think the participants got the idea. If anyone have questions, like yeah, Malina got a question. You can unmute yourself and ask Malina.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible and visible as well.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I just had a question because we've been discussing how peace movements, youth movements, especially in countries in the South Asian region, usually we've resorted to movements, physical movements like protests, even online platforms, as you mentioned. We as Gen Z, we have done that. But oftentimes we've seen that in this South Asian region, youth engagement in governance is mostly symbolic. It's more of like a symbol, more of a tokenism, sort of that perspective towards the government, I mean. So I would just like to ask your perspective on how a government could move from seeing the youth as just a symbol for these movements or movements for political change to actual decision making, rather than making them tokens or symbols of peace. How can we actually include or give the power to the youth in actual decision making in shaping peace without us having to ask for it through such movements or through such digital platforms? Just to get your perspective on that.
I can share one of the experience that I have, especially the process of introducing youth quota, right, for political for the elections, right. So I am in this dialogue for about 10 to 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. But but it took time actually. The traditional political parties and traditional governance systems to give space as quota. Now it's 25 for youth. Initially, it came for the women as 25 quota, and then now it's introduced as youth quota for youths to come out and actively engage in political decision making. So we actively took about 15 years. But when I went back for history, that comes somewhere in early 90s. In my example is Sri Lanka, right? After but this is the reality. The government or the governance always change slowly, right? Because they have a kind of an hesitations of giving quick response, right? So in that sense, that's why they are giving like alternative platforms for you. Right. Sometimes they're asking youth to come as youth clubs, right? Or youth parliament, but that is again not connected to the main parliament, right? And alternative platforms. So be the alternative, be active in alternatives, but don't come in the mainstream, right? That is what the structure is right now. But what I see again, there was another practice has happened a few years back, that's giving an again and youth representations for attending parliamentary decision makings. There is a system called parliamentary committees, where all new government policies and laws being scrutinized and what do you call analyzed with its impact, right? So there was a system introduced by previous governments, 2015 governments, to bring some youth representative into the parliaments and let them give the ideas in new regulations and new policies. And that works for some time. But suddenly last year it was stopped. Then I asked, how come that a practice that happened for a few years and you suddenly stop? That is one of the platform that the youth can come and involve in governance. So what they say is it has been practiced for some time, but there is a problem that how the youth representative have chosen, or how their voices been transformed into, or how their voices can be legitimized, right? So again, an example of how this traditional system is responding to the youth, right? I'm also in a quite dilemma situation right now. How we can sort it out an optional way for this, right? I believe the solution have to come from you actually. And honestly, my next research also on this particular subject, as Melina says. So it's really interesting that you also have seen as a problem actually. I'm still struggling to find a solution, and I really can't give a direct answer for that because the system still not ready to accept. Acceptance are very slow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
for sharing your insights and experiences. I think Malina got the idea and our other participants also. So we got another question from Noha. What are the most significant challenges you have faced while working on peace and government issues? And what did you learn from those experiences? That's the question.
So can you repeat again?
Sure, sir. What are the most significant challenges you have faced while working on peace and governance issues? And what did you learn from those experiences?
That's quite challenging. Well, one of the experience that I have, yes, when you work in Sri Lanka, in peace activities, North and East, we will work with the war. But luckily, we can't say luckily. Then again, all these were people conflicting each other are our own people. So we didn't have that much of barrier to engage with them. So, but I still remember that when I was in Afghanistan, I worked in there for some time, about few years there. One of the biggest challenge that I faced during that in somewhere in 2005, 2010 period is the security challenge. We always, whenever we go to the field, whenever we are going to meet the people, we are always facing a huge threat for our physical life, right? So this is, and that's create a huge mental stress as well. So if you wanted to be a peace activist, so I would say you need to ready for that as well, right? And you know how many people have been suffered the peace activist in right now with the Hamas and Israel war, right? And some other the regional wars. So we are hearing lots of news that the peace activists are getting into troubles. When you talk about governance, right? The second one, the biggest challenge for me is to bridging uh, the multiple political parties and their ideologies, right? Right now, as an example, I do have to deal with 12 opposition political parties. 12, right? So they do have completely different identities and completely different political history uh, and political thoughts and different ways of and attitudes of seeing the problem. So the biggest challenge of in governance of bridging these different ideas and different attitudes into uh, uh, seen into one single problem, right? So where things get making complicated, right? Uh, yes, there is a positive side. Whenever we are getting multiple ideas, we can see many angles, but still the dialogue and the timing that we are wasting or we are using to come into a certain understanding levels are very long. Sometimes find into a simple solution is take a long time because our generation frameworks are always taking time, having discussions and but sometimes we never agreed, but still we are carrying on. So that is the biggest challenge that I'm experiencing right now in governance. That is multiple ideas, many ideologies, and how we can bridge those and bringing them into one aim and one goal. That requires lots of negotiations.
Thank you for like sharing the honest experiences, like what are the challenges you have faced in both fields. And we got another question from Anoshan. It's in societies with powerful groups, entrenched influences, and historical grievances. How can youth create new frameworks for sustainable peace? Should I repeat it, sir?
In society with powerful groups and cross influence historical grievances, how can you create a new framework for sustainability? If I'm not mistaken, I have suggested a framework, isn't it? Right, a new formula, a framework, step by step. Create a youth early warning systems that the government can hear, and start pushing governments to introduce youth inclusive development. They don't give it easily. You have to push it some way or another. And make sure that the government or the new parties always come up with a framework that youth can engage in and support them. As an example, that who is introducing a youth quota, who is the one who is promoting the youth inclusiveness in their decision makings, right? Third, be the intergenerational communicator, right? Even though they think like they really communicate, they don't really communicate each other, and they don't really use those tools, right? So let them show them that those tools available around them can be used for communications, not within them, but intergenerational, right? And the final one is, as I said, be the change maker and be the leader of introducing these things and pushing these uh, triangular frameworks to your older generations. And you have seen there's nothing called powerful groups right now or powerful generations right now, right? Within few months, within few days, any government, any powerful government can change, right? So that's my answer for that.
Thank you, sir. Now we have a final question. Tuaraka, you can ask the questions.
Hi, sir. Sir,
Yes,
I
hello.
think
Yeah.
social media can. Hi, sir. I think social media can be a powerful tool to promote peace, as you said, but it can also spread hate speech or misunderstanding, especially around sensitive topics like religion, politics, war, and new ideologies of this new generation. I am wondering what advice would you give to our generation to use social media responsibly? What is your approach to this, sir?
Excellent questions. So basically, I think that's a challenge of your generations, right? The first thing that you can do is be conscious that you've always been controlled by algorithms, right? Make sure that uh, uh, while you're engaging, do it with understand. Otherwise, you're simply getting into a bubble, right? Where only you will see that the things that you like, or that that uh, uh, that the same people that think that what you think, right? So what I proposing you in your social media groups, always keep one or two people uh, that respectfully disagree you, right? As an example, in my social media networks, I always keep people who are representing from completely different ideologies, right? They are never aligned with me, but still I keep them in my friend list. And they are questioning, and they are questioning my algorithms, right? And they are giving my different perspectives. They are giving me different perspectives to think. That's one of the tactics that I'm using. The second one, make sure you use always fact checking before sharing. Think twice. The AI is now getting into the getting into control of all our thinkings and informations, right? Make sure you do fact check before you share or lie. Uh, then again, the final thing that I can propose you is use technology to build bridges, not to walls. If you're using our post or sharing or like or our ideas to be shared to differentiate our groups and isolating our identities only within us, that is the wrong thing that we are doing, right? So we need to make sure that we're expanding our horizons while bridging bridges, right? Building bridges with our other generations or other ideologies. So this is where that you can start train your algorithms rather than you are get a victim of an algorithms, right? So that's the answer that I can give you. Don't be a victim of an algorithm, right? That's the biggest challenge in your life.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you for sharing your insight. And as we conclude today's session, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Suranga Ranasinghe for sharing his expertise, time, and experience. Your reflection on empathy, youth, trust, and engagement and government have provided us with the practical tools to create a more peaceful society. A special thank to you all, our participants, for your thoughtful engagement and your presence. Reflections and questions make these dialogues truly impactful. Before we officially wrap up, let us capture this moment with a group picture. Please switch on your cameras for a brief moment. We would like to see more pretty faces. Okay, shall we take a picture? Say cheese, one, two, three. Okay, we are getting more new faces. Okay, thank you. One, two, three. Thank you. Thank you for joining this session, and good night, everyone.